20 years since his last gig with his band. And last week, John finally did it. His first ever solo gig. He walked out with 200 quid in his hand and a very happy crowd. John Scully joined my one-to-one coaching program earlier this year after 2 decades away from gigging. He had been saying, I'll start next month, for about 9 years, until we got working on his set list, his confidence, and his approach to performing. What happened next was incredible. In this chat that I'm about to share, John shares everything, how he prepared, what went well on the night, and the one mindset shift that changed everything for him. So let's jump straight into it.
How is it going?
There's Ireland's newest rock star.
The night itself was brilliant, you know.
So tell me, like, first paid gig, properly in how long? How many years?
Like, bands that we were in, we broke up probably in 2002. So what's that? 23 years. And they were gigs that, like, you know, I think we at the time we probably got 1 or 2 payment from the bar, but more likely it was like, you know, you sell tickets to your friends and family and you're basically getting the rewards of that. So first time I've ever like been given money in my hand for a gig, like, and
first ever paid solo gig.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And like, what a feeling, like, because, you know, we talked about how much of a goal it was, and even like the emotional side of going back to when my dad died, it was something that I had in mind. That's like 9 years ago. So like, that's 9 years of putting things off, and I'll tip away at it, I'll buy this bit of gear, I'll, you know, in my head I was going to be starting the next month or the month after.
Mm-hmm.
And to have like done it and tick the box of that, like, just felt so, I was just so proud of myself, you know. And for it to go well as well, you know. And not every gig will go well, but like to have the build up in my head that this was going to be the thing, and for it to work out well, just like, it was, you know, such a you know, felt so good afterwards.
Like, it's so obvious from the videos that it went so well. If you had to say, like, what do you think allowed it to go so well? What enabled you to have such a great gig?
Definitely, I wouldn't have been in a place to even book the gig had we not had sessions. I just wouldn't have been. Or if I did, I would have been like, it would have been like totally, you know, off the cuff. It would have been totally unprepared. Would have been totally like, probably like, you know, rabbit in the headlight stuff. Whereas with all the things that we talked about, I think one of the most important things is take it on board. You know, listen to what you've got to say. You've got like so much experience. Take it on board. Think about those things. The open mics, I was really lucky. First of all, you know, you really pushed that open mic thing, and I wanted to do open mics anyway, but I was really lucky to have found a couple of open mics that were so easy to fail at, and accommodating and friendly and supportive. And actually, one of the sort of sidebar things that you'd set off that was try and build up a network of people locally, and by joining those open mics, it got to meet people and, you know, get other advice from them, and just, you know, talk about, you know, but feel comfortable back on stage.
Yeah.
And it was like running a 10K or a marathon, you know. It was like, start off in those open mics with 2 songs, then 3 songs, then 5 songs, then 7 songs. But I know that's a lot of things together, but I think, like, to summarize that, I'd say, you know, to listen to your advice, I think the set list, the open mic, the preparation, the practice, the ability to ask questions back and forth about your own setup and what to expect and blah, 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 that sort of stuff. Those are the really things that, you know, had I not been talking to you about them, I would have fell on my arse, like.
Yeah. So tell me about the gig itself then. Tell me what went well and how did it feel?
Well, like I say, the run up to it, I built it up to this thing. So in my head, you know, I was getting nervous about it. I was getting nervous about the fact that the manager had said to me, the Saturday night is really busy and it's kind of a younger crowd. And I was looking at my set list. I was like, oh, first of all, I'm not sure whether they're going to want to listen to this music. And second of all, I better add in a few things that I thought might be a bit younger, you know. So I added in a couple of songs like that, Sam Fender and some other things like Harry Styles and stuff. And then as I got closer and closer, I was like turning that nervousness into excitement. I was like, fuck it, you know, like what's the point in you've wanted to do this so long? Just go and enjoy it. But the flip side of that was like I said to a load of people, "Oh, this is my first gig," and then like after I did that, I was like, "What did you do that for? You've just sort of put more expectation on yourself. You know, you've sort of built this up to a thing." And luckily, everybody sort of pulled out, which was great. So I had like there was like 30 people coming. Suddenly, I had 30 people whittled down to about six, seven, including like my direct family, and I was like, actually, that's okay. But then I was thinking, oh God, maybe the pub won't be busy. Got in, the pub was jammers. It was like, oh God, rowdy crowd over here. There was like young crowd over there. It was like just a mix of people.
Yeah.
But the average age of people was kind of old enough for me to think, okay, well that set list is going to be good, you know. So it was like that was confidence first of all. Sat down with my family, got in early enough to get a table. But I was lucky I did because the place was busy. Took plenty of time to set up. That was another key thing. It was like
Yeah.
took like 35 minutes just to make sure everything was good. And then one of the other things was I'd done an open mic in that pub a couple of weeks beforehand, and I asked the guy running it, could I bring my own gear just to test the sound? So I was pretty confident the sound would be okay. Had everything set up. It was kind of tighter space than I'd imagined. It was
Mhm.
like had to move people out tables, and that was one of the first things. Like there's a bit of like that's just the reality of things. Sorry, you're gonna have to move you here. The music's gotta be here. The music's gotta be here. So I had to shift them out, and then yeah, the area I had was kind of like straight down the middle of the room, but I was like, oh, this feels a bit like if somebody walks past, they're gonna knock the PA or something. But anyway, I was like, okay, well, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, so first bit of sound check, I had my son go down the back of the room and round. It's like a dog leg room, and go around check. And he was like, so he was doing me levels for me, which was grand because it was like quarter to 10. It was busy. It's hard. So he was like up, up, up.
Yeah.
Daughter over here was sound voice up here, guitar down. I was like, this is perfect, you know. So by the time I got the first song down, the sound was good.
Yeah.
Started with Take It Easy by the Eagles,
Yeah.
one which I'd kind of started with a lot on the open mics just to kind of sort of focus on a song to start with. I know you'd said like things like Sweet Child of Mine, so if I moved that down a little bit,
Mhm.
just because there's bits of that I was still a little bit tricky with, and I was like, I know I'll be okay once I'm comfortable with playing the songs.
Yeah.
So Take It Easy, I knew I kind of had off, so that one like end of that song was like yeah, and the whole place was like I was like nice, and that was a a nice kind of confidence booster. And then I put Valerie next, which I also was really comfortable with. And then I stuck Watermelon Sugar High by Harry Styles after that, just to again sort of keep the younger people
Mhm.
good. And those three were really good. And yeah, so that was a really good start, and I felt really confident then, and I felt really comfortable. And I didn't like I just felt really natural.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and like I just felt like this is perfect. This is exactly how I wanted to start off. And actually, the crowd being there, like I've played in that other pub where there isn't that many people before, and it's actually I found it's a bit more difficult when there isn't that much of a crowd, or like the crowd aren't that receptive. It's like kind of eats at you a little bit. Like it's like
Yeah.
whereas when the crowd are receptive, it's like oh, this is fuel.
Exactly. But those first handful of songs is so key.
Yeah,
One reason is to kind of get the crowd on board in a way. Just play some stuff that they're going to recognize, and the other is playing some stuff that you're really comfortable with because it just allows you to settle into the gig. And all it usually takes is one or two songs, and then that kind of anxiety is gone and you can enjoy it. Whereas if you try to start with something like really impressive or really
yeah,
technical, you're going to stress yourself. You might make a few mistakes and then you can spiral. So you did it exactly like I was saying to do it. So yeah, class. And then from there, just based on the footage you sent as well, Seems like it would.
Yeah, like I kind of spliced some videos together just to kind of get something to put up there because I wanted to sort of strike while the iron's hot and get out and go to bars and just have somewhere to say, well, if you want to check it out, you can check this out, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But actually, like some of the better stuff, I didn't even include in that, and like some of the other songs, the reaction to some of the songs, like I didn't even include, and
Hmm.
like I just I just know that it's so good that like a lot of your set list that you sort of put forward like towards the end of it, like Summer 69, Living on a Prayer, like they were like the place was rocking for them, and like the crowd were fully singing it back. Um Other things like, off that list, Sweet Caroline was brilliant. My sister Caroline was there, so I definitely had to play that towards the end of the night. Brown Eyed Girl, I hadn't really practiced, but I was like struggling towards the end and they were looking for another song to play. I was like through my iPad, I was like, well, I was like, I was just looking at the chords. I was like, I'll give that a lash, and it was like straightforward enough.
Yeah.
So like that was cool. That was those ones, like suddenly the conversations that we'd had about like they're the ones that are gonna really, towards the end of the night really land, and they did. So I hadn't really practiced like things like Country Roads and stuff, but now I'm like, right, they're definitely going in there for the back pocket wagon wheel. That's the stuff, just having them there.
Yeah.
Um, Towards the end of the night. So even though I played like 35 songs, I was like, I could still have done with another 10 nailed on ones that I could pick and choose from, because I did end up picking and choosing a few songs that I didn't necessarily want to play, but I was
Mm.
like the Sam Fender one, I was like, not sure this audience is gonna really want it, but I played it anyway, like third last song, and it
Hmm.
was sort of the flattest song of the lot,
Yeah. Which Sam Fender one was it? 17 going
uh,
on?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had learned that like over the last while, so I was like really comfortable playing it, like,
Yeah. Good.
um, but some people recognize it, but the older people definitely didn't. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, there's one that I'm not gonna play unless it's
Yeah.
requested or something like that.
Here's the thing I want to ask you though. You mentioned like, oh, seeing a younger crowd and thinking I
Yeah,
better have some younger stuff.
yeah.
Did you notice though that during the gig that the older songs still resonated with that
Oh
younger crowd?
yeah, definitely, definitely. Like especially those things like, Summer 69, Living on a Prayer, Sweet Caroline. Um, they were like all singing them. Obviously, Sweet Caroline's really big at the moment with like just people being away. That always comes up and stuff. Um, but yeah, I think like say like Watermelon Sugar by Harry Styles went really well. Um, but I didn't really bother with any of the other stuff that I'd kind of like
Yeah.
thought about, because I was like, I don't need to. But
Yeah.
the reason why I had them in my back pocket was like your one, the manager was like, oh yeah, the Saturday night's normally younger crowd, and it's kind of like, because I had been talking to her and I was sitting in a bar and there was a guy playing and he was really good, and he was like, I was like checking the list of songs off our set list, I was like, wow, this is great. If he can play them, I can play them.
Yeah.
And she's like, what sort of stuff do you play? I was like, actually very similar to what he's playing. She's like, oh, it's a kind of younger crowd, so it's a bit more upbeat. I think she meant actually that because it was a Sunday sessions thing, it was just like sitting in the corner with acoustic, and it was much more low key, mellow
Yeah.
approach to playing it rather than, pick it up. Like something like Folsom Prison Blues was rocking. Uh, Can't Get No Satisfaction rocking.
Yeah.
Help by the Beatles, a True In, that was rocking.
Mhm.
Like, stuff that are all time classics. People just know them.
Exactly. And like I play to young crowds all the time, and for the most part, they want the older songs.
Yeah,
So you don't really need to stress about having like your very, very new material,
yeah,
as much as you might think. Um, so yeah, but yeah, you learn these things, and I think usually the lessons you learn from these gigs or the whole process is that it's easier than you think.
yeah.
It's simpler than you think, and you just have to have a system in place that you're comfortable with, that's pretty easy to follow, and it works. So, how did it feel then? Tell me, like, how did it feel to get that first gig and for it to go so well?
No, I mean, brilliant. I really, like I say, felt like this sounds really corny, but like felt like it sort of ticked a really big box
Yeah.
of things that I want to do in my life.
Mm.
But more than that, it gives me confidence. Like I would nearly say it was life changing. First conversation I had with you, we were on a Facebook group that you'd been on, and I'd said, oh, pissed off at work, and I was like,
Yeah.
has anybody actually gone and went from a corporate life to working full time? And you said, I actually have done that, and I've got this page, and that's how we got introduced.
Mhm.
And doing the maths, I was like, well, I don't think I could swap out exactly like to play all the time. I just don't know if that would be feasible with my family life and all that. I'm not sure. But having done that gig, got money in my hand, it has been sort of really like the first thing I thought about was, right, I'm going to get my calculator out here and say, the job I do, it's so stressful. It's so all the time. It's so on. I don't want that to be my life. Like I've had 5 weeks off. The big thing I took away from it was I didn't think about work once, and it made me realize that 95% of the time I'm thinking about work during my whole life when I'm on or off. And I was like, here's something that I love. Here's something I get paid for. I don't necessarily have to have that job. I could complement a lesser job, less stressful job, more 9 to 5
Yeah.
with this. Like, really, it could be life changing for me, Like, if I can find the right network, the right amount of gigs, the amount of things that I can get on a schedule, I can really actually think about either doing something else or working in a different way that allows me to be less involved or something like that.
Mhm.
And like I said to you as well, if my overall goal would be maybe to at some point retire and move off somewhere sunny and play these things like as the source of income, then I know I can do it.
Percent.
And that, like, above ticking a box for a life goal, above ticking a box for something I want to do, it actually, back to that first conversation, has sort of cemented that, yeah, this is actually something I could do to change my lifestyle, my way of life.
Hmm.
Maybe stop me from dying from a heart attack in 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that I really want to do is there for me. So I went down, took an envelope, didn't have chat with anyone, just like took the envelope, went home. And like it was 200 quid. I was like, nice. I
Oh,
was like, that's like that in itself was the thing that was like, maybe I'll just start doing some maths here, Like I was like, and she also promised me, she said, like, definitely gonna make sure that we get you on the schedule, and also if you're available to be there for backup for nights, I'd love that as well. So I feel a bit more confident now when they ask, what are you looking for? So, well, there's my baseline, Like, I mean, it might not always be that, but it's like, look, I've played gigs and that's what I've been paid, and if there's a bit of bartering back and forth, that's okay.
yeah.
But like, at least I know I can be confident. Say, well, I paid a gig and I got paid 200 quid for it.
That's a great fee. And I would say that they've just given you the
Yeah.
standard for what they pay their solo
Music
musicians.
on a Saturday or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. One thing then to take from that going forward for approaching new venues, you have to be assertive about the money to a certain extent, because otherwise it can come across as though you're maybe not confident or not experienced. So you've got to mention that money in an appropriate way. Mention the pay, because you want to demonstrate that you're confident in what you could do and what you can bring to a venue. So definitely don't avoid the conversation like about the money, because
Yeah.
you've got to give that impression that like this is what you do. The money goes hand in hand with that. So
Yeah.
maybe
So,
suggest.
so in your like, would it be better to say to ask them what their rate is and then counter it if you say, well, no, I'd be expecting X.
It depends how the conversation goes, but definitely don't be afraid to be the first one to
Yeah.
say no. My rate is. It shows that you know your worth, and people respect that. Like if you go in and say, well, I can play for 100 quid, you know,
Yeah.
that's an exaggeration, obviously, but like it gives the impression that, oh, maybe he's not that good, or maybe he's not
But
experienced.
also, morally, you're scabbing off other people that like you're undercutting other people that could be getting a wage. Like, so, it's morally a wrong thing to do.
It couldn't have gone better.
Yeah.
It ticked so many boxes. It ticked the confidence box for you. I think it ticked the knowing that the songs work, and yeah, it's just giving you that fire.
I think like just one of the other things that I would kind of highlight is I spent like money going to rehearsal studios 2 or 3 times a week because I was bringing my own sound. I'd never really set up for a room. That was the thing I was really most concerned about. So, like, it gave me lots of time to really try and dial in a sound that I knew was going to be okay, because I had plenty of times in that room where I was squealing, or it was feedback, or I was didn't position this right, or I didn't position that right. And so I just was able to not blow the neighbors out of it by cranking things up and like really just trying out some stuff in terms of sound. If somebody has to bring their own sound, I would advise them to get into a rehearsal room or some space that they can really crank it up just to give themselves confidence if it's their own equipment, because well, the one thing I really wanted to know is this like a fairly cheap PA? I was like, was that going to be good enough for a room that size? And it was. So I think, I think immediately I'm not going to be playing much bigger places, and if so I have to bring my own gear, I'll be confident in that gear as well.
What is the PA you have again?
It's a column, it's like it's a Sub-Zero one, so it's from Gear for Music, so it's their own brand, and it's 350 RMS watt, so I think that's like 700 peak or something. I'm not really clear on all that stuff, but like talking to people in music shops, they'd be like, "Oh, you might need double that." I was like, that was the thing that was sort of, maybe they were just pitching to sell me, but like,
Yeah.
but actually it worked out fine, and I only had it half up, so I could have really kind of gone further.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I will probably down the line improve it, but for now I know it's good enough.
Love to hear it. Were you using a vocal harmonizer?
Yeah, I just had it for some. I had it for some choruses. It's
Sounded
just,
good.
it was. I have it like this. There's a TC Helicon Play Acoustic. It's like a DI for your guitar, but it also has vocal harmony in it. And there's a million settings you can choose. But I just had one setting that I just used for things like Take It Easy at the
Yeah.
chorus, some bits. So it's just like I'm comfortable bringing it in and out, and so I wasn't having to scramble for it or anything like that. So as
Hmm.
we talked, when I went to the rehearsal, first I brought a big um pedal board which has like 10 pedals on it, and one of the things we talked about was simplifying. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna start in my rehearsal hugely complicated and try and wind it all the way back down. And I was tap dancing along in my rehearsals, like, this is bullshit. And I was like, Yoda Finbar in my head, simplify this. So I got rid of all of that stuff. I think I'm going to end up selling half my pedals, because I think I'll never really be using them, if because like to the point about simplifying things. Clearly they weren't needed. So if they're not needed, why try to overcomplicate it?
Yeah.
Bringing things down or changing the key was another key thing that you've taught me. I played This Is by Aslan, which, if you've ever tried playing This Is by Aslan, it's impossible because it's so high.
Mhm.
But I brought it from like a starting D chord down to A, and it was so comfortable. And I was like, I was never able to play that song, and suddenly I was able to play it and play it live, and it went down really well. And like
Mhm.
those kind of things have been game changing.
Yeah.
Um,
So what's next? Have you thought further about reaching out to other venue now, or what are you thinking?
So I really want to shape up the social media side of things so that it's looks good. I'm this weekend going to get myself cards. Uh, I'm going to approach a lot of local pubs, but also Drogheda, and I might even jump into Dublin City Centre, have a pint and talk to a manager type thing.
Yeah.
Um, not this weekend, but over the next few weeks. One of the people that I met in the open mics basically has uh, seats at all of the pubs in all of the locals. So I'm gonna actually go ahead of him. He said, I'll get you a few gigs here and there." I said that's great, but I'm actually going to go ahead and make my own introductions and then fall back on him if possible, because I'd
Yeah.
rather just set that up as my own thing, not like his understudy or something. I'd just rather go in and be my own thing.
Mhm.
So there's like 7 pubs in my local area that definitely play music, and I
Mhm.
play it often. So I'm gonna go to them, and start from there. And I'm gonna, basically do my best not to turn down anything that comes up, and just go and do it, and just get more and more and more and more.
Yeah, it's great. You've got the support of your family as well, clearly, which
Yeah,
is it
yeah,
is really important. It does make a big
yeah,
difference.
yeah.
So
No, really do. Yeah, I really do. And not only do I have the support of it, they were so proud as well, because they know how much it meant to me. So
uh,
like,
it's
I
brilliant.
mean, to have, teenager and 20 something they were like clearly so
Yeah.
proud. That was a really great feeling as well, and my wife as well, so yeah, it's brilliant.
Congrats.
And again, like Finbar, I really, really, really thank you for like, I feel so lucky that I was able to kind of, get chatting to you in the first place so that we kind of had initial chats.
Mm.
It really has, put me on the path with scheduling stuff, with the discipline needed, with the right music, with the approach to things, with the ability to ask somebody questions back and forth in a comfortable way. Like, that's stuff the internet can't solve for you. It's not stuff that, forums can solve for you. For anybody else that's kind of considering going with you, I would just say do it because, like I say, it was 9 years procrastinating on, I think I'm going to do it next week or next month or 6 months down the line. And just, within this period of time that we've been working together, I've gotten from initial conversation to a paid gig, and it's worked out really well. And now I feel really confident that I can go on and do it. So, like, no BS. That's really how I feel, and yeah, really thankful for it.
Massive shout out to John for sharing his story. What a journey. This is honestly one of my favorite parts of what I do with my coaching, and that is seeing somebody go from thinking maybe one day to actually walking into a pub, plugging in and getting paid to play the music that they love. If you've been thinking about doing the same, whether it's doing your first gig in decades or just building up the confidence to be able to get out there performing, that's exactly what I help my clients do through my one-to-one coaching program. If you'd like to learn more about this, there's a link in the description where you can book a free call with one of my team and we can chat through where you're at, what your goals are, and whether it would be a good fit to work with me. Thanks for watching, and again, big shout out to John on his first paid solo gig. On to the next one.